mine shafts in Ruby Valley. Bye, he said.
I have only shared this one with a few people, and still when I think about it, it freaks me the fuck out. I was 16 or so, and growing up in a small town, exploring out in the hills was the thing to do. This incident took place at the north end of Ruby Valley in Elko County, Nevada. Someday I will play around on Google Earth to try to find this place, but it is slightly north of the road off of Highway 93 that goes into Ruby Valley. I always like checking out old mineshafts and ghost towns. That shit really intrigues me. At the Burger Bar in Wells, Nevada, where I am from and grew up, they had these old turn-of-the-century maps under glass on the tables. On one of them it showed several ghost towns just north of Ruby Valley, so I figured I would go check them out, as I had not been in the area very often. I gassed up my '72 Dodge W200 pickup, and being a redneck and K, before 4chan even, I grabbed my HK91 and set out. I had found some old foundations in the lower country, and started heading into the mountains themselves and started finding abandoned mineshafts. Shit was pretty cool, so I kept going up. I took this ancient road that was no more than an overgrown cattle path by this point in history, and came upon a tree blocking the road. It was an old pinyon pine about 2 feet in diameter that blocked the road. After the tree, the road continued straight for about 200 yards, then hooked right before coming back 180 degrees. Continuing, gonna sketch up some key locations for next post. I parked my truck in front of the tree and set out on foot. I grabbed my HK91 with 120 round magazine in the rifle and put 120 round mag in my back left pocket. I always had a rifle with me as I have encountered mountain lions and mineshafts before, and just generally I like to shoot shit. Get up on ridge lines and shoot boulders from a couple hundred yards away. Anyways, as soon as I climbed over the fallen tree, I had a fucking creepy feeling as if I was being watched. I continued on for about 200 yards to the point where the road started curving right and gaining elevation, going towards the cabin. At this point, I had the realization that not only did I feel like I was being watched, it was also dead fucking quiet out. This was in June or so, as school had just got out. Everywhere you went you could hear those fucking cicadas, but not here. It seemed as soon as I crossed the fallen tree, the mountains were silent. No bugs, no birds, nothing. Deafening silence. As I came up to the turn, there was this big fucking rock. The thing had to be about 15 feet in diameter. You could tell that it used to be on the road, but due to years of erosion, snow, and all that shit, it had slid down just slightly off the road. It seemed to be red limestone, or something like that. It stood out since they are not that common in this area. I looked at the rock and you could tell that there were carvings in it at some point in time. Due to weathering though, whatever was carved on it had been worn off. I kept walking up the road, being creeped out like fuck, but I really wanted to check out the old cabin, as it was pretty obvious no one had been here in quite a while. At this point, I was probably 3 hours off-road to get to this point. You are going to be going through Wells, which is closer to where this happened. Probably about 30-ish miles south as the crow flies from there. After I post everything, I will look on Google Maps and see if I can find this cabin on there. I got up to the cabin, and as far as abandoned houses and cabins in Nevada go, this one was in pretty good shape. All of the glass on the windows was still intact, and there were remnants of curtains behind the windows. By this point, there was something in the back of my mind telling me that I should be going. I went in the cabin, and that is where I started to get the feeling that something was off. Most cabins you find out in the middle of nowhere in Nevada are barren. Nothing really left, maybe a bit of broken furniture. This one was completely furnished. Time had taken its toll, but everything was still there. What was left of an old mattress and bedding was still there. There were plates and other cookware throughout the house, along with tattered clothing and personal effects such as a chest, faded pictures, and the like. What really creeped me the fuck out was the dinner table. It was set for 4 people. Dinner plate, glasses, and silverware. This was the first cabin I had ever found that was in this condition. It was as if whoever resided here had just up and left everything behind. I felt like I should not be in the cabin, and went outside to see if I could find the mineshaft or anything else. Once I was out the door, I decided to chamber around on my HK91. The sound of me racking around and echoed through the canyon, and broke the silence. As little of a thing as it was, this calmed my nerves very slightly. Directly behind the cabin was a well. It was still intact, and as I got closer, it sounded like there was noise coming from it, like a slight breeze rustling through it. When I got within about 30 feet of it, I started to smell something. It smelled absolutely fucking putrid. Definitely something had died in the well. The smell of decay was heavy in the air, with an acrid copper scent that tore at my nostrils. Continued. I did not want to get any closer to the well, and started walking towards the left, where I could see the opening to a mineshaft up on the hill. The closer I got to it, I could start feeling a breeze coming out of it. This is not really uncommon if you have explored mineshafts before, as the breeze could be coming in from another opening for the mine. But the thing was, it was perfectly calm. As far as I could see, there were no trees moving or any signs of wind. As I got closer, another thing that struck me as odd was the breeze coming out of the shaft was hot. Most of the time it is cool, as most mineshafts maintain a constant temperature. The closer I got to the shaft, the slower I moved towards it. Nothing since I crossed the fallen tree seemed right. The closer I got to the opening of the mineshaft, the more of a feeling of dread and being watched I got. I got within about 15 feet of the shaft when the fucking smell hit me. It was the smell of decay and copper, but much stronger than the well. Right then all of my spidey senses started going off. I had to get out of there. I started turning left to book it out of there when I saw a dark shadow moving in the opening of the mineshaft. Whatever it was, it appeared to be crouched down to fit in the mineshaft. Most mineshafts I have been in have 8 to 10 feet ceilings. At first I thought it was a mountain lion, then I remembered how big the fucking shafts were. Continued. My mind raced trying to think what the fuck it was. It was too big to be a black bear, which are rare in northeast Nevada. I nearly froze with panic, and it slowly kept coming towards the opening of the mineshaft. It was probably within 10 feet of the opening, and the light was starting to show whatever the fuck it was covered from head to toe in grayish-brown fur. Then it fucking screamed. It was unlike anything I have ever heard in my fucking life. My ears were ringing from it. I flipped into panic mode and did what any good redneck would do. I fucking shot it. I pulled up my HK91, placed the front blade on what appeared to be its center mass, and ripped off 5 rounds as fast as I could accurately shoot. If you have ever shot big game with a large caliber rifle, you know the sound when you connect with something. I had 4 solid thwunks, and 1 round that went high. This made it scream even louder than it had, in pain. At this time, I started hearing more, and separate screams coming from over in the well, and in the hills above the mineshaft. I started running down the hill as fast as I fucking could. In the tree line above the road, approximately 75 to 125 yards, I could see fast movement. Rocks were tumbling down the hill, and there were several other screams. From the mineshaft, I could hear the wailing of whatever the fuck I had shot. Whatever it was, I had definitely connected, and it was hurting. Whatever it was up in the tree line, they were running from tree to tree on all fours, getting closer to me. As I ran towards the rock, I was shooting in the general vicinity of the movement on the top of the hill. By the time I got to the limestone rock, I had expended the 20-round mag in the rifle. I ripped it out and put in my spare magazine, chambered around, and started sprinting towards the fallen tree, approximately 200 yards away by now. I kept glancing back, and whatever they were staying in the trees. I could make out their masses and fur, but they would not stay in the open. I got back to the fallen tree and ate shit trying to jump over it. I got up off my ass, fired between 12 to 15 rounds at the closest movement, which was approximately 50 yards away from now. I heard a few rounds connect and it started screaming louder. Between the screaming and gunshots, my ears were damned near deaf. I opened the door of my truck and got the fuck in and started it up as fast as I could. Backing up to turn around, I damned near put my truck down in the canyon. As I started going forward, to leave on the road I came in on was when I finally got a look at one of them. It was crouched over with its front feet on the tree. It was covered from head to toe in grayish-brown fur, with long slender fingers with claws tipping off the fingers. The back of it was hunched, and the face was slender, most closely resembling that of a badger, but with sunken-in eyes. It was shaking its head back and forth, and it sounded like it was attempting to speak, but it was so garbled, and with the noise of my truck I could not make out what the fuck it was. I averaged 50 to 60 miles per hour on a shitty dirt road that I had done 15 on the way in. I did not slow down or stop until I got back to pavement. By now I was so shaken I had to stop and collect myself. I got back to town and was in a bit of shock. My dad had been a guide in the Ruby Mountains for about 20 years. He asked me how my trip went and where I went. He could tell that I was startled and asked where I had been. I told him that I had been north of Ruby Valley. He got quiet and asked if I had seen a cabin with a tree fallen over the road. I told him yes. He looked me in the eyes and told me that it's somewhere I should never go again, especially alone. We never spoke about it again after that. I have never been back there. Part of the reason is I live in western Nevada now. But in the back of my mind there is something that is telling me I should go back. And one day I do want to go back. This was back in 2001, before camera phones, and I was too broke to afford a digital camera. I want to go back with a camera, preferably a GoPro on my helmet, and with several friends that are armed. Just something about there, even with the shit I experienced, is drawing me back. One day, I will go back. I guess I need closure on what happened that day. I will probably be on for another 30 minutes or so if anyone has any questions. After that, I can be reached by email. Stand by, I will sketch it up. My drawing skills are shit, so it will be rough. Definitely want to make it back out there with at least 4 to 5 people well fucking armed, that is for damn sure. Still to this day it gives me goosebumps thinking about this shit. I tried researching it a bit a few years past, asking some old timers, and one of them told me a story about the Rubies. I will be quick on it. During the 40s and 50s the Army Air Corps operated out of the Wendover Air Base. Every now and then during shit weather a B-25, B-17, or B-29 would smack the Rubies due to poor visibility. Some of the local ranchers got recruited to help the military go up to a crash site during the winter to recover the bodies. Rancher I was talking to told me that it took them about 3 days to get up to where this crash was on horseback and recover the bodies. He said when they got to the wreckage, all of the crew members were laid out, side by side, next to each other in a clearing in the wreckage. Many of them had severed limbs, and it was apparent all died on impact. Somehow, they ended up laid out next to each other. This was at nearly 10,000 feet elevation too,